Welcome to the show, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Sit Around the Fire. I am joined with two guests today, Sarah and TJ, who are here to dive into the dynamics of what it's like to be a couple as a first responder family, and also talking more about how they've developed a really special program to help people in their lives as first responder families live truly their best life. So welcome to the show, Sarah and TJ. I always love to kick off the episodes with the first dynamo question of, for those folks who are listening today, what do you want them to hear from you? What do you want them to walk away with knowing?
Yeah. I think that we want them to know that they're not alone. You know, first responder families are special and they go through life in a completely different rhythm than the traditional family. And we want them to know that they're not alone and that they can not just survive, but thrive in this lifestyle if they so choose. And we're just here to be proof of that and hopefully support and help others do the same.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me would be that happiness is an absolute choice. And it's all about the systems you create. And if you're willing to do the healing work and to use some of the calls that we see or the post-traumatic events that happen and not see it as a disorder, but as an injury that can be healed and manifest into a really beautiful life. And
Awesome. Yeah, there's so many good little nuggets to dive into in all what you just said now. So I love it. Well, so we have some context and the audience has some context because I've been following you guys on Instagram and I like seeing kind of how your life unfolds on there. But can you give the people listening a little synopsis of who you are and kind of a little bit of your story?
Sure, I'll dive into that one a little bit. So Sarah and I met actually in a ski resort in Colorado in Crested Butte, and we're living a really active, incredible, loving, very happy life. And I was working as a ski patroller and as an EMT on dirt bikes and bicycles, and started kind of seeing my first big traumatic events, and it started to change who I was as a person. And we really didn't know what that was. Inevitably, we had our first son, which changed the dynamic of the world we were living in on the ski resort, ski bum lifestyle, if you will. And then when we were pregnant with our second child, we decided to make the move closer to Sarah's family in Maryland to raise our children with family around, which was really important to us. Getting on here in Frederick County, Maryland is a really busy fire department, and really endured a lot, if you will, after leaving kind of my dream world, if you will, living on a ski resort and then coming into like the city life and seeing a lot of trauma. I was involved in a line of duty death where I actually pulled my captain out of a basement fire, and just a lot of different calls that really stuck to me that I didn't know were sticking to me at the time. I just realized and knew that I was very unhappy, even though I had my dream job and my beautiful wife, my beautiful kids, my amazing home. I was miserable. So it wasn't until I had just a big breakdown and kind of a spiritual awakening, if you will, to where I realized that there was so much more to life than the chaos that I was living in, and I wasn't satisfied in anything that I was doing. And that was when the shift started to happen. And that's when we got into a lot of mindfulness and a lot of yoga and meditation and just a lot of like planning of our lives and daily structures and communication between each other of what we wanted and how we can gain all of those things, because the schedule that we work is conducive to live a really beautiful life if you can switch hats in a way that's actually meaningful and give yourself the rest that you need, but also using some of those terrible calls that we see as a driving force for that post-traumatic growth, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how you reframed it that way of post-traumatic growth because that's one of the things that kind of honestly bothers me sometimes is the diagnosis of PTSD, and it just like I don't know, I understand the time and the place for diagnosis and when that, is necessary, but it's almost like the label of a disorder, like that getting labeled with that feels so heavy and it feels so like this constant mentality that something's wrong with me or something's broken.
Yeah, it feels
And
like
so
forever.
exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I like your take on it, and I've heard it that way before too, and also post-traumatic injury, which is like, okay, you know that like this isn't forever. This isn't like just how things are going to be, but it's just a growing point and an opportunity to heal. So I really love your
That's it.
reframe on that. It's really important.
Yeah, and I think nothing is forever, right? We live in a universe of change, and that's the only thing that's constant. So it's important to understand that unless you're present and living presently, you're not going to enjoy the life that you're living. And sometimes, most times, you're living the life that you dreamed of 5 years ago, but we're not aware enough to consciously actually see that at all because we're stuck in fight or flight, or we're freezing and we're hiding and disconnected from life in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering if you can speak to your side and then maybe get Sarah's aspect of her view on this as well, as being she was walking beside you while you were going through all this. But I see this all the time and I saw it in myself as well of how we just get into this rhythm of suffering or this continuation, this pattern, and we normalize the symptoms of that, normalize feeling exhausted, normalize being angry or irritable or not being able to sleep effectively or, drinking more alcohol than we really should or diving into food, all of those things. Is I'm wondering if you can speak to some of that from your life, but then also I know in the work that you do with others or have seen of how these things really start to become quote unquote normal for us, but they're not normal. They're
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. It's really easy to justify that life, right? It's really easy to only see the negative in the world, especially when you live a lot of your life in that world. You know, people don't call 911 on their best days, they call it on their worst days. And lots of us are empaths and we don't know how to set boundaries, energetic boundaries, and spiritual boundaries to protect our well being. And we're also surrounded by maybe old timers where healing wasn't a thing. You didn't talk about your emotions. We're men, we keep it in. You know, you get through your fifth, sixth, seventh divorce, and that's just what we do. You drink your case of beers on your days off, and that's what we do. And, I think we're coming into a time and place to where we understand as an energetic body, we have the yin and the yang, if you will. We have the masculine and the feminine energy body. And until we're able to tap into that as strong men, who are capable of expressing emotion in a healthy way, we're never going to be able to connect to our wives or our husbands, vice versa, unless we're willing to open that channel up into those new pathways and actually do the healing work, because it's always a choice, right? It's like we can easily justify why we're angry and why we're drinking every day, and you don't understand, and why we separate and why we surround ourselves with people that are just as miserable, right? Because misery loves company. And
Mhm.
it's so true. But that's why I think it's important to know and understand who you surround yourself with and who you're trying to live a life like, and really emulate that person. And it's really hard I always say it's really hard to read the label when you're in the jar. And so much of us are in this jar and we're just suffering together. And it's just been normalized for so long that we're coming into a new space now to where it's time to open up. It's time to see new opportunity to grow and live a healthy life, to where we can be that father, or be that mother, or be that husband that we really ultimately long to be.
Yeah, I love it. Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
give us your take on like how did you, walking through this or seeing him in these spots, like how was it from your vantage point or what did you believe or feel like was going on?
It was like living in a parallel universe. We moved here to Maryland, to the hometown that I grew up in. My family is still here. So originally stayed with my parents for quite a while he was going through the fire academy and, get it until we found a home. And he got out of that moving truck when he arrived. And it was like a different man stepped off of that moving truck than my husband. And that was the first moment where I was like, he was angry, he was tired, he was frustrated. He had just left this dream lifestyle that we had had for something totally different. And it was just like like a light switch had flipped. And that was the first moment where I was like, whoa. And it's like when you're in the scenario with your partner where they're having a bad day or something's going on that's not normal, you keep chalking it up to like, oh, they haven't had much sleep, or oh, it's just a bad day. And all of a sudden, weeks of bad days or months of bad days turn into years of bad days. And suddenly you look back and you realize how long the anger and the irritability and the hypervigilance and the abnormal erratic behavior has been occurring. And you're like, oh my gosh, when did this actually become my life? Like when did this become who we are? So it's like it's happening right in front of you and you don't even realize it because you keep trying to live, you keep trying to function because that's what you do. And you don't even realize that there's actually like a mental breakdown, emotional breakdown occurring right in front of your eyes with the person that you're supposed to know the best.
Mm.
And that's the best way I can describe it because it was just all these little moments that just kept compiling and compiling until I was fearful to even give him any tiny piece of bad news. The communication didn't exist anymore because I was
Mm.
always so afraid of what was going to set him off or what kind of, anger I was going to experience that we just stopped communicating altogether.
Mhm.
And then everything kind of came to a head. We were trying to figure out, we kind of got to a point of awareness and then trying to figure out what was going on. Is it, I was like, oh my God, is my husband bipolar? Like, what is happening? And when we got to that point, like he started trying some medications that didn't really, it helped, but not really.
Just masked everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Yeah.
drinking. It
Yeah.
dehydrates you.
So we found, you found mindfulness, he found meditation, he found yoga. We started finding joy in moving our bodies again and realizing that maybe it's not a clinical diagnosis necessarily, but maybe it's what we do in our own time and how we release and how we communicate
Yeah.
that that can heal us.
It was a lack of drive for joy, I would say, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I see that a lot, and I felt that in my relationship too when I was still online, was my now husband, at I guess boyfriend at the time, had said like, "Why are you so angry all the time?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm not angry." But it was like, "Oh my gosh, I would lose my shit if like there was dishes in the sink, like, or if the trash hadn't been taken out, or like, just little weird things that I noticed is like, why is this sending me from 0 to 100 over something that is not a life threat, but in that state when we're so used to that hyper arousal all the time, is everything feels like a threat, even if it's just the trash is full. Like, it's so bizarre, but you don't I love how you said it, you can't see the label of the jar when you're in the jar, and that's what happens, I think, to so many people who are in the job doing the work is you can't even see how dysfunctional things are, and then it's just the perpetuation of normalizing it, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
It's crazy. And it's like you're at a level of either hypervigilance or separation, and you're so far from um homeostasis, if you will, right? That like you're trying to be met because ultimately we're all looking for love. And if you need to be met at that level, it's going to take a big surge of energy. And whether that is a dish that's in the sink, that if you lose it, they're going to give it right back to you until your partner decides like, hey, I'm not going to feed this energy anymore, because where focus goes, energy flows, and everything that we have is our capacity and our energy level, right? So I think it's more, when you have those big outbursts, it's more of like a try for connection. It's just like a child, who's going to throw a massive temper tantrum, because it's going to get a large reaction from a lot of people. And we're alchemists. We don't care what kind of energy it is, because there's nothing good or bad in this world. It's just energy. And until we perceive it a certain way as good or bad, and that's where we can actually grow or go quite the opposite way.
Mhm. Yeah, and, I love what you spoke to about too with communication for you guys and how this I mean, if I had to pick, like, a number 1 issue couples deal with, is always communication, right? It's like we're always trying to figure out how do you communicate. And I heard a really good thing on another podcast this week about how like people are never rational. So like it makes relationships so interesting because like we're always trying to navigate it and figure it out. Um, but I'm wondering if you guys can speak to like some of the ways that you have used communication for your benefit or things that you identified that you were like, okay, this method of communicating is not working anymore. Here's something that I need to do different.
And not take it personally, because there were a lot of things that needed to be discussed and said that had happened, to understand where each other was coming from that were hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
Just to know that either one of us had behaved in that way or held back in that way that affected our family. I mean, it affected our family deeply.
Yeah, especially the kids.
Yes. So being able to hear those things from each other and take a moment and not take it personally and not take it as an attack was really a huge start in our healing journey of communication. And just continuing to prove to each other over time that the other person can feel comfortable communicating in a way that's uh, getting us to the next level and actually getting us somewhere.
Mm.
'Cause for a long time, I had a really hard time trusting him again and being able to communicate little things that I thought might upset him.
Mhm.
And so we're finally, I think, at a point now. I know we are.
Good thing.
We're finally at a point now where, I can let him know that I've made one of those small mistakes because I'm
Mhm.
simply busy and I forgot, or, sometimes systems just fail because we're human. Whereas it used to be that if I forgot to make I don't know, the dairy order for the week, it was like, how dare I? It would ruin our day.
Yeah.
Like, but now it's like I can say, I forgot, like, we're just gonna have to buy regular milk at whatever it is. But now we're finally at a point where we can give each other grace and work through things,
Mm.
Mhm.
because of that.
Yeah.
I think another big thing with communication is how we communicate with each other what we need when he comes back home. Being able to integrate him back into our home after being on shift in a way that is peaceful has been a really big, important,
Yeah.
really major part of our focus as well.
Yeah. And I can kind
Yeah.
of speak into a little bit of that
Sure.
because I think setting ground rules of where we're coming from was huge. And the book, The Four Agreements, was so key for us. And the rule one was make your word impeccable because even the littlest minor detail can start to stir it up and you can start to replay a story and all of a sudden it's just not true anymore. So making your word impeccable was a big one for us. Not taking anything personal, including what your little mind is letting you know inside that's talking all the smack. I think a big one for me on the communication part was never assuming anything because, once you start having children, your marriage also changes. Once you change jobs, your marriage changes and your communication changes. I know that we're all trying our best, is that last rule. I think is absolutely key as well. So meeting each other where we're at was a lot easier with that. And then communicating of like, hey, like, what do you need? What can I do to serve you? Because we're all here to serve one another and love one another to the highest level. But we also need to know that we need to fill our cups first, because if we're pouring from an empty cup, we ain't getting anywhere. And inevitably, it's going to absolutely fall down around you. Which I think is another big thing with the fire service is there's so many people not willing to serve themselves first because we're in this mentality where you have to serve everyone in front of you. And there's a space for that and there's a time for that. But you need to do the work on the backside to make sure that you're showing up with capacity. And if you're not, you need to use your voice and ask for what you need, And I think another thing with communication is once you have that, then you can really meet them where they're at and say, look, what do you need for this week? And the biggest thing that we did is we got planners and we started planning every aspect of our life all the way down to the littlest of things.
Yeah.
of when we're going to do it, how we're going to do it, why we're going to do it. And we had meetings. We have meetings on Sundays, and we line that out still to this day of like, all right, well, what are your habits that need to be checked this week? Because we don't rise.
How can I hold you accountable? How can I help you?
Right. We don't rise to the level of the occasion. We fall to the level of those habits, right? So it's like, what are your daily habits? Okay, well, I want to hit the gym 4 times this week. All right, when, where, how? Do you need me to take the kids? Do we need me to do this? All right, what days? Okay, well, I want to come with you this day, and then I'll go this day at this time. I'm on shift at this time. I have a holdover day here. So don't plan anything here just in case I get held over for another 24 hours without knowing it, right? So it's like communicating enough, using a calendar that links to each other. So when things change or things come up, you can put them in and they know immediately, hey, oh, he's got a training on this day at this time in this location. So they have an awareness of where we're at and what we're doing and what we're trying to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love planners. They're like incredible. The only way to stay organized, really, because it's so overwhelming, and
Yeah.
especially with a spouse or a partner, and then even more so with kids, it's like it's just. And then the dynamics of the schedule of the job are just so much to navigate. And a lot of what I hear you saying, and I love the 4 agreements too. It's such a good, it's just amazing. But like we set these expectations for our partners or for our spouses that, they should show up for me this way or they need to do this and I like what you're coming at with this is just like taking away that through, like the communication and through the planning and like not having these expectations. Like when he walks through the door at, 7:45 or whatever it is, it's supposed to be like clicked right back into like how life has been going. And I love the word you used, integrate, because that's 100% what it is like coming back into and functioning with and being a part of. It's so important.
Yes.
And those expectations come from a standard that you set for yourself. So I think checking in with yourself and making sure that you actually are abiding by your own expectations that you expect of others, but then know that there is a middle ground, and that's a partnership. It's like, look, this is your expectation, and you need to be willing to have a little bit of leeway there as well, and know there's going to be mistakes, and know that forgiveness is key, including forgiving other people, but also forgiving yourselves for however you acted in a way that maybe wasn't conducive.
Yeah. Aw, you guys are awesome. So I want to kind of take a different turn here because as I heard you speaking to some of these things, and I think there's a ton of value in where we could go with this. But you mentioned and have brought up the topics of spirituality, mindfulness, and that's a huge element of the work that I do and that I pulled into my own practice within my life as well. But let's have a conversation so that because what I'm finding is there's still a lot of like weird ideas around what this is. And there's still a lot of misinformation or sometimes even like stigma around mindfulness or around spirituality and even understanding what that really means. So like let's talk about this is like give us an idea or like what do you see it or if you were having a conversation with someone like how would you explain spirituality now with your own understanding and what it means to you in your life?
I think this one's for you.
Okay. Oh, there's a lot to unpack here, right? But I think it's very simple, honestly. Mindfulness to me is paying attention on purpose without judgment, period. Because there's so many times and spaces that we live in either the future, which causes a lot of anxiety, right? Or we live in the past, which causes a crazy amount of depression. And the only thing that's actually true and real is the present moment. So when we can tap into our breath is always hanging out in the present moment, and which is very special. And that's why yogis are so focused on the breath, because if you can focus on your breathing, number one, you can regulate your nervous system and get out of fight or flight by just simple techniques of how we breathe, because we've forgotten the way to breathe, period. It's prana, it's life, it's how we live and how we survive every day, right? But we can't understand it because we weren't taught it. They didn't teach us in school. They taught us what to know, not how to learn, right? And that's why we're in a new age and a new way of believing and thinking, that we're finally seeing that science and spirituality are finally meshing for the first time through quantum physics and the quantum realm, that nothing exists until you perceive it into existence, right? So based off your mindset, AKA all the filters and lenses that we have over our eyes because of what we believe to be true, most of the things that we believe, we never put those into place. So we're running off systems that were built by our parents or our grandparents or our great, 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 great grandparents. And now we're just supposed to act like that's what's serving us. It's like, well, no, look at our behaviors and our actions and our habits. They're not serving me anymore. Well, it's time to question them. And the only way to actually question them and move out of that realm is to be present, to be regulated, and then to feel in the body where those emotions live, and then reframe and recreate the story into that post-traumatic or into that growth zone. Because we have two choices. Faith and fear are both invisible. It's a choice every single day whether we're going to believe into the fear or the false evidence appearing real, right? And it's all around us, social media, mainstream media. They want to fear us because when you're feared, you're very easily controlled, right? So when you have faith in something much bigger, much more powerful, learn, it's like treating people unconditionally with love and respect is how the world will change. And the only change that we're going to have is through being mindful and actually being present, not way over there or way over there and trying to figure out where the hell the middle is. The middle is the breath, and it's in the present moment. That's what I have.
I like it was very well said and so in line with exactly how I look at things as well too. And on my own journey, it has been this dismantling of these old beliefs or old stories that I was buying into, or that how you don't realize how they are driving your entire life. And the dialogue, like that's one thing. I'm so passionate about this, and like I'm on the mission to end the suffering too, because I'm like, you don't realize like how powerful your thoughts are and what you are telling yourself. Of like, if you're saying like this job is killing me, or I hate my relationship, or like I'm never gonna be strong enough to do that, or nothing's ever gonna work out, it's like, what do you think is gonna happen if you keep telling yourself that? We get surprised almost, or frustrated that like things aren't working out, but it's like that's what you're putting into reality. So
That's what you're
what do you
creating.
think? Exactly, but it's such a bold but amazing mind shift to have, and I think I just love like having the conversation around it, because these are the things that people don't. Goes beyond just traditional methods of therapy or traditional methods of dealing with trauma. Is like you've got to take the deep dive in if you want to live the most epic life possible, and be very, very present while you're doing it. So I just love it. I
Yeah.
love the conversation around it, because it's definitely my cup of tea.
Yeah,
Sure.
and that's what we're all about, is living the most epic life possible. And we were about that before we got married and had kids. And when we moved to Maryland and we started this life of a first responder family and our kids were really young, we started feeling like all of that was gone. And then we realized that we had this incredible blessing with TJ's job, because we could have time together, a lot more time than the traditional family with parents that work 9 to 5 have. And we can have time off, and we can create these amazing adventures, and we can show our kids an incredible way to live. But we have to choose it. We have to choose it every single day. And it takes work. You know, having these weekly meetings and planning everything out. I mean, I fought it tooth and nail. I wanted to be free, but I was not free. I was not free without the planning. And now that we have come together, we have created such solid communication, and we have created all of these little systems it takes us out of the anxiety of, are we going to get this done? It takes us out of the stress of, when will this happen? It takes us into a place of teamwork, because now we're helping each other meet goals rather than it all being focused on one or the other of us.
Hmm.
And that's really incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, like talk a little bit about like what your guys' mission is now, like what you do working together and like how like I'm totally with you. We're here to serve and to end the suffering. And I love just seeing people embrace. I refer to it like dharma, your mission, right? But like what have you guys embraced, or what is your mission in what you're doing? And then if we can dive into exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. So the mission's right here, right? It's live rad. And everybody says, well, what's rad? It's super simple. It's resilient, authentic, and disciplined. And that comes through finding gratitude in the life that you're actually living. Because when you can live in a state of gratitude, your lenses are automatically going to shift, right? Period. And that's what science has showed us. It's what life showed us. What happens with the heart and the coherence of the mind body. And it's like you need to find things that you're grateful for every single day, because it's important to understand that we're living in an absolutely magical world right now, and we've simply forgotten it, right? So the more that we can be grateful for what we do have and stop focusing on what we don't have or what happened to us in the stories of repetition of sadness and sorrow,
Mm.
set those goals. It's why it's important to get scared of things that you've never done, knowing it's going to grow you. Healing is very uncomfortable. Unless you're willing to get uncomfortable, you're going to be stuck. Unless you're willing to find gratitude every day, you're going to be stuck. And that's a choice. God gave us free will. Thank God for that, right? We have a choice to whether we're going to be happy and satisfied in this life, or we're just going to live every single day like the last and call it a life, And it's like we're here to learn. I believe we're in a school called Earth, and we're only here for so long in this body. Why not explore all the realms that you can? So our mission at Real Elevation is to help people to find clarity, balance, and structure through systems, through habits, and through planning and structuring your time, because time is inevitable, And when I almost lost my life in that house fire, the man I pulled out lost his life with his beautiful family, and I was saved here. And I don't know why that is, but it was true. And I am here, and I'm blessed to be here. And the more that I can show people how incredible this life is, I think the happier and lighter this world is, because like heaven's all around us. We don't need to go anywhere for it. Hell is also all around us. Where are you focusing at is what you're going to see in the world, because they both exist and they have to, because we live in a world of duality. So it's your choice where you want to be. And through Real Elevation and what we've created and this beautiful, incredible planner / journal that's called The Art of Living Rad is what it's all about. And it's a 12-week class, 12-week course, if you will. That's a container that brings all these people into one. And you have a morning script for your journal. You have a night script for your journal. You have a reflection. We have videos in there that'll teach you all about how to plan your week,
How to use the journal.
how to use a journal, how to have good habits. And then we meet up with you every Sunday for questions and answers. And how's everybody's stories going? What can we help you through? Because the more that you heal, the more that you can be the light for everyone else. You can't change anybody. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn, is I wanted everybody to find happiness. I wanted to force feed it down their throat. And it's like, no, it's a choice, right? But the more that we can give people the tools to find that happiness and to find that value in life, then the better our world is for our children, our amazing children, to grow up into and see the same world and keep creating the new world that's coming into place.
Yeah, we created this planner to help people find the same clarity and balance that we have found in our lives, which takes effort, but we wanted to have a community around it so that other people that were also trying to reach the same goal in their own way, they were able to connect with each other, because the whole point is that you're doing it together. You know, this type of work done solo can be very lonely and very challenging. So why not create a community so that you can connect with other people that want growth and want more positivity in their lives and more accountability for what, their goals are.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love everything about it, particularly the community side, because like you said, it can be isolating to do the work on your own, but just kind of how sometimes the world operates now can make it feel very isolating in general. So I love that you guys are bringing the community aspect because that's how we grow together. That's how we heal. No one heals in isolation, is the growing happens in community, and you guys offering that support and that, again, like we talked about, that commonality through understanding what this is really like. You're not just two random people who threw this together and said, you live it, you know it. And so I think that speaks volumes to people. And yeah, how it makes me want to do it really, because I'm like,
Should.
oh, that's
You absolutely
exciting.
should.
Come
It's
Yeah,
on.
no, I
when
like it.
you
Yeah.
grow, you have to let go of your old self, old version of yourself. And when you grow, you have to let go of people around you that aren't serving that and in a loving way. And it's really uncomfortable when all your best friends start leaving and be like, who are
Yeah.
you? You're different. Like, yeah, guess what? We're supposed to change. That's why we're
Yeah.
here. So it's like our goal was to create a community where people can feel the light, feel the love, and know that they are on a path of unconditional happiness and just being authentically themselves. Because when people can be authentic and feel love, like that's the world we're trying to create. All of us just long for that. So if we live in a world that's all around you, then that's the world you're going to be currently living in.
Yeah, 100%. No, I totally agree, and I think it's so important to have that support while you're doing your own dismantling and that own, like, because it everything shifts for you in your life. Like the old things that are no longer serving you, that you've outgrown, your identities, your sometimes a relationship, sometimes a job, like all those things start to shift, and you need the community, you need the support to help
Yeah.
you through
Yes.
that.
Sometimes it's so
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say sometimes it's so hard to even know that it's okay to let go.
Yeah.
For me, just with the personality that I have, it was so hard for me to recognize, or well, I was able to recognize that it was time for me to move forward and let go of certain parts of my life, but to actually do it, it was like, "Man, am I quitting?" But it's like, it's not, you're not quitting. You're choosing something different. You're choosing something that aligns better with your life. And so just knowing that and having a community around you that can support you in that is so huge.
Yeah, knowing that failure is not real, right? It's your first
Yeah,
attempt in learning. You either succeed or you learn, and those are the only two options. And you don't just get rid of old habits or old ways, you have to replace them.
that's
And if you
right.
don't have the tools to replace them and put the systems into place to restructure the mind into that space, it's really hard to do. And it took me years and lots of books and seminars and lots of personal growth teachers to get me to where I am. And it's like, well, I'm going to gather all these tools together and put them in one shed, aka this planner, and then give it to the world in a way that's going to benefit everybody around.
Yeah. It's hard to do even when you do have
Yeah.
tools because you're realigning your life. I mean, rising early, finding time to move your body every day, like all these habits that we know are so good for us, it's really hard to keep up with all of them, especially when
Mhm.
you throw family in and all the other things that we have going on.
Mm.
It's and it's okay for it to be hard. Like
Yeah.
that's makes it all the more sweeter when you look at the end of your week and you're like, "Wow, I moved my body 5 times this week." You can really
Mhm.
like celebrate that. And that's what's so cool about this planner. Like the trackers are in there, like checking the boxes are more than just checking the boxes.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I started moving away from the dialogue of it being, like, hard or uncomfortable to just, like, unfamiliar. Like, it's just unfamiliar, I just don't know it because it hasn't been the way that I've done things for a long time, or, my old default programming was that way, but Yeah, becoming so consciously aware of like the words I'm speaking to myself so that it's not like, oh, this is a struggle. I mean, like struggle, like reframing it is all good. But like just
Yes.
saying, yeah, it's just unfamiliar. I just don't know this method. And that I echo what you say is like I tell people this all the time is that like this whole thing or this new way of life is worth the cost of admission. Like it's worth getting up every day, at 5 o'clock so you can meditate. Like it's worth, all the things will be worth it for you on the other side, but you have to be sick enough of your suffering
That's right.
um to do it. So I
Yeah.
love it. I love what you
And
guys
then
are
do it
doing
again.
and do it to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you could become like, it's just your, like, you can't wait to do it. Like, I can't wait to get on the meditation cushion morning and night. Like, it fills you up. And so the shift does happen. Of course, it's going to be unfamiliar at first, but it does happen. So, but I'm so glad you guys came on the show. And I feel like, man, we could talk for a long time. There's so much to talk about, but anything else that you want to share with the audience or any valuable words of wisdom of, what is on your heart that you want to share or you think would be important?
I think that the main thing that I whenever anybody asks me this question, I just it's truth though. It's like you're not in this alone.
Mm.
You don't have to be. And I felt so alone and so isolated as a fire wife for so long. And even other fire wives, I felt isolated from them because it was like, how long do I have to be a fire?
Mm,
Like, what does that even mean? You're not alone. You are who you are, and you're exactly as you're supposed to be in this moment. And I mean, if you want to connect, please reach out to I'm always willing to chat. I'm always here and always willing and ready to share stories, share ideas. You're not alone in this journey, and you certainly don't have to be.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is like to see change, you have to be the change
mm,
and know that every being on this planet is deserving of unconditional love and being authentically themselves. And that takes the pursuit of happiness, that takes the pursuit of reaching big goals and doing things that are a little scary. And know that you have everything that you need right on the tip of your fingers, but you have to be willing to make a sacrifice. You have to be willing to do the work, and you have to be willing to want it enough and know that everybody's ground zero, if you will, is different. So it's like rock bottom's not fun, but sometimes just zooming out a little bit and seeing where your life really is instead of you just hyper focusing on this hard time, if you will. And be wise, and I often say in my seminars, like it's time to be the buffalo, and buffalo are wise enough to see a storm, know that change is uncomfortable, and that's okay. We're gonna be just fine. And if it's not just fine, it's not the end. So keep rolling.
that's true. Nothing lasts for forever. That's for sure. Yeah. It really, thank goodness. Thank God for that, actually. Yes. So how can people get on board with what you're doing? Where can they get the journal? How can they connect with you? Can give us all the ways that can happen.
Sure.
You can connect with us through our Instagram, Real Elevation Coaching, and we can get you that link. That would probably be the best way. I can also get you a link to our website, landing page, all that kind of stuff. Our website is realelevation.com.
Also, anyone wants to follow Rad Dad Mindset on Instagram. We post a lot on there all about being a father and having a mindset towards that resiliency of raising children. And then we'll also be speaking at Key City Conference in March here in Frederick, Maryland. But then we'll also be speaking at the First Responder Conference in Ocean City, Maryland on March 23rd as well, right after Key City.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So we're always available.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we'll definitely have to do a part 2 and continue the conversation and dive into more stuff because there's so much to talk about around all these things. So
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. We really appreciate it. And keep on keeping on with your journey. I think you're doing amazing. And keep loving yourself. Keep enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right back at you guys. So thank you to everyone who showed up today to listen to the episode, and thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it so much. And you can support these guys and their work, Real Elevation Coaching, as well as getting that hat because it's awesome. So I really like the hat.
Heck yeah.
So